welcome to Building Your T-Shirt Empire. My name is Cole. Unfortunately, Gavin can't be with us today, but we do have the distinguished guest, John Ladd of Terminus Tees. John, could you please give everyone a quick rundown of how you joined the industry and how you started the company?
Yeah, definitely. Like a lot of people in our industry, I started with doing being in a band, touring in a band. Saw the conversion of people not buying albums, physical CDs anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so really I toured from 2000, 2006-ish time. So that 6-year run. And then I converted into really being like, hey, they're going to download it, get it for free, whatever. Spotify wasn't out yet, but still kids were using iPods and stuff. Yeah. So we doubled down on the merchandise. And then we made deals with people that if they bought a shirt, we give them the album for free. And they would have to actually plug in their iPod, slide it over, and we would give them the free albums. So that way they could get the music for free. So we use like from a marketing standpoint, we use the music as a freebie they got from the physical purchase of a T-shirt. Then the guy who was making our T-shirts, people were asking us, how do you get these shirts made? And I would show him to a guy that made our shirts. And we had a huge display. We'd be like the smallest band, on the tour, maybe the opening band, but have like a display of 12, 13, 15 designs.
Oh, wow.
And so people would gravitate to our display because I just understood attention back then and like how to, do that. And then so I sent some people to the guy who made our shirts. Then when the band stopped, I did some work with Pepsi, the marketing, guerrilla marketing with Pepsi and Frito-Lay, Energizer, all these different companies. And I had noticed whenever we would do these events, people were gravitating to asking about how do I get a T-shirt. We would give away like a Mountain Dew T-shirt for Pepsi. Back when they converted to that tribal-looking artwork back in the early 2000s. Your Vin Diesel look, Mountain Dew had
super
that
badass
whole look going. Yeah. And so it was extreme. It goes well with like Doritos and kayaking and all those kinds of things and mountain biking. Anyways, so they would stand in line for this shirt and we would run out 30 minutes into the event. So I would talk to the people, the uppers, the red tape cutters at Pepsi being like, man, I need more shirts. And then I just saw the power from my band in the merchandising. I saw the power of people standing in line for the free T-shirt. Went back to the guy who made my band's T-shirts and I said, hey, I started a marketing company called Terminus Marketing because I was trying to help smaller companies grow their marketing the same way, in the same kind of way. And you find out their budget wasn't there to be able to cover the marketing side, but they're like, but you can help me get some good looking merchandise made. Mm-hmm. So they were asking about more or less, how do I do that? And I was like, well, I'm selling lots of T-shirt packages on my own as Terminus Marketing. And so I got with my partner he became my partner. I said, hey, I'm going to convert it to Terminus Tees. He was printing out of his basement on a manual press.
Wow. And
we quickly had to upgrade and do more and more things because I focused on the marketing kind of side of it and the sales and just, a little bit of the admin because when you're a 2-person team, you're both doing it all. I mean, there were times where I was on our press when we first got our first auto and I was pulling shirts off the press while having the walkie-talkie style phone, like here on my ear, and having to do a sale as I'm unloading off of a press. And I think a lot of us can relate to just having to wear all the hats, But then once it's just started growing and growing, I knew the power of hiring sales reps. I knew the power of marketing campaigns. Back then, we're talking 2006, 7, 8. MySpace was still a thing. And I can't even remember when Facebook actually started. But I remember being like, when Facebook started, I was like, oh man, now I got to learn this new thing.
Yeah.
Just like anything. And then that was without Instagram. That was without all the tools. So Yeah, so I just kind of grew it from that. I'm always paying attention to the tools we have. And what I mean by tools, I'm talking about like all the social media platforms, all the physical ways to do guerrilla and or what I mean by guerrilla marketing, a lot of people don't understand what that means. Experiential marketing or in the trenches like guerrilla warfare. So actually, how do I get out there? Event marketing kind of stuff. So what I was doing with Pepsi and Frito Lay and Energizer and all that work was was guerrilla marketing. We would go to like grand openings of Walmarts and stuff like that, and concerts. We did the Pepsi on the Bricks in Atlanta with bands like Kanye, who did one of them with us. Uh, that band Live, if you remember Live back in the day,
yeah.
there's a band called Live. Um, there's tons more, Seven Dust and whatnot. So people were coming out, and we had all different kind of things to do with that, as far as giving away free Pepsi and bounce houses for the kids to jump in, and all that kind of stuff. So I understood the more experiential stuff, and I just combined a lot as much. So I basically looked at all the tools and all the ways to do stuff, and kind of came up with really unique ideas that I could do from a creative standpoint in our industry about selling t-shirts to the individual. And one of my things I really like is helping companies not only understand how to market their own company, but the message that you put out, that why should someone order t-shirts in general, even if they don't order from your company. It's like, why is a t-shirt important for this company or whatever? Because most people, you find out, what I found out is they talk themselves out of either talking to a certain group of people because they've already decided, well, why would a bunch of these kind of companies, want merchandising, and I help people figure out that, because I did it for myself and had to teach all our sales guys how to look for new clients that made sense. So that's really my background, and it's a long answer, but it's really important because I don't just look at us like, hey, we're just a screen printing company. Right. I look at us as we have this marketing solution to it, or just helping someone complete a vision. And by the way, a lot of our marketing says the best t-shirt ever, and there's a couple of reasons we say that. Number one, I thought I was fascinated when I was young about companies in New York saying they have the best cup of coffee in New York, but you saw like 20 different stores would say that. You know what I mean? So you're like, well, how, what does that mean? How does that work? And I just thought that was funny in one hand. And I realized, it's subjective. First of all, I mean, if you print T-shirts in your hometown, you're like, dude, I think I do a pretty good job. So it's a little pompous on that side. But what I really am doing is we put out a message of, it's just because it says the best T-shirt ever is not necessarily us. It's that person's best T-shirt ever. It's their story behind the shirt. And the reason that's important is because I remember the first time I ever got T-shirts for my band, and then opened the box and pulled the shirts out. It's like seeing your name in lights for the first time. The emotion connection to like, wow, man, we made it. We did something more than just practice in our mom's garage. Now we have our name on the shirt. Now I can see my name on the kiosk at the venue, in the magazine or online ad. And it's all part of that experience of like legitimacy of an idea. And to that person, when you do that, it's like, they're putting on a race in their hometown, like whether there's a 5K races or something. There's a sense of once you see everyone wearing the shirt as a person who's making that order. If you're the pastor of a church and you see the congregation wearing the shirt, you're like, man, this is real, man. This is a good thing. So I really hold on to that emotional grab, you know what I mean? And show people that's what we're selling, is that experience. Now we need to choose the fabric and the print style and the design and put the recipe together, but I'm selling a result. And that's what the best T-shirt ever means to us. So that's what our marketing really anchors to.
I mean, I think it's great that you have a better marketing message than just like, budget bundle or, we'll do it in 96 hours or whatever, where it's just like a speed versus cost argument. But I wanted to ask you, it's so easy to spend 10 grand in ads and just lose 10 grand, or it's so easy to have a social media manager and get only 17 likes, even though you have like a person who's supposedly full-time social media manager? How do you think you spend money with like the goal of an ROI and actually acquiring new customers, as opposed to just giving yourself a marketing budget and getting, essentially wiped out because it's so wildly competitive now that how are you thinking about getting those eyeballs, getting those contacts outside of just, cheapest option or fastest option?
So yeah, when people look at like you said, the cheapest option, they haven't had the experience of the spider web or the family tree, if you want to think of the pluming of marketing. I've always said, by the way, keep in context that, marketing concepts, there's a level of ROI, there's a level of provability to reporting something and doing your best to really track it. If you track it, then you can measure it, right? Is the right idea. Or if you track it, you at least have a data point of like, this is what happened. But the problem with that is it's not very accurate because of lots of, especially nowadays. The reason is so. In other words, there's this idea around, think of like a belief system in it, and that's the hardest part, I think, for most business owners to get around. And it sounds very out there kind of concepts, but it's like you have to understand that, like, I believe that doing these outer top of the funnel is what they call it in marketing style concepts, that they will feed forward and down and down and down to an actual sale. So really, the one thing that I tell people a lot when they show me like this, I've heard of recently of certain companies spending $40,000 a month when their numbers do not justify $40,000 a month. It's almost a pay to play. I'm like, totally. No, you have to look at it kind of backwards and say, you could invest money into something, but I would only invest money into a marketing campaign that works like like a slot machine that you found that will just keep paying out constantly. You know what I mean? Yeah. I say that because Cole
like
and
my trip at Atlantic City. Yeah. I was up
exactly.
I was up like 470 when I got on the plane. I was like, I'm clearly a god. I'm a gambling god.
Yes, you killed it. And so, like, if you knew that there was a pattern to it, and there's like, and you could do the real ROI perfectly, I know without a shadow of a doubt, if I put $100 in, then 1,000 comes out. And everybody would market all the time. That makes sense. The problem with that is it doesn't work that way without experimenting and finding the equation. And the only way to find the equation, really, to speed it up, is to, I think, our success comes from using what we call the lookalike audience features within Facebook. That's a big thing. But the real life version of that outside of the digital is simply doing the hard work as a salesperson and finding order number 1, then order number 2 and 3 and 4. But not only going back and seeing when they're ready to get more made, like how did they like the, if I could take customer number 1, how did you like your experience? Loved it. Would you do me a favor and go post that on Google reviews for me?
Yeah.
Boom, they put that out there. Now, if they do that and say, hey, what other people are like you? I really enjoyed working with you. What other people like you do you know that could, benefit from getting merchandise made? And what you find out is people in the industry, A, love to help each other, B, know someone, and they've already done an order with you. You know what I mean? So the trust is there.
Yeah.
So they say, my buddy Bobby owns this kind of company. My friend Susie is a youth group leader at this church. And then you use the B2B techniques, which is basically saying, hey, I just did an awesome order with Bobby. Hey, Susie, he said that you guys are really good friends. I'd love to talk to you as well and replicate that kind of success for you and do whatever you need to talk about with value of showing them what you can do. And turning people into like micro advocates, if you want to think of it that way. They might not, you're not going to get like a blood oath with them in the moment or something crazy, but you might be like, you definitely have a better chance. I learned that from when I was on tour with my band. I had the little black book, right? Not only did I keep the information of the venue and the booking agent, I would meet every single band the best I could and take down their information, an email address. You have to remember, this is back in Spiral Bound Notebook. What's your Angel Fire site? So I can check you guys out later. So it's almost like a backwards email, a backwards newsletter. Most people say, I want to get information so I can learn about you more versus you give me your email so I can shove advertisements down your face.
Yeah.
And then I get into trading shows for shows with people. Simply, I would just say, hey, man, we're coming back through, Ithaca, New York again. And I would love to play with your band again. What other venues do you like to play at? And then the family tree starts growing. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So too many people get a sale, they shelve it in their Printavo or whatever system, and it's just an order I did in the past. And when they need business, they might call them back up and say, hey, what else you got coming down the pipes? Something like that. Versus, hey, I enjoyed printing your shirts. Compliment. And then the whole, who else are you friends with that I could talk to? Because it's like asking. It's people think it's not like telemarketing where you're just calling somebody and disrupting them. Mm-hmm. You're giving a compliment, saying, I enjoyed being with you or working with you, really is what you're saying. And I want to hang out with more people like you. You know what I mean? It's the same way we all kind of connect with people in real life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're friends with people, and then you become friends with their friends and friends with their friends. So it's the business version of that,
I'm sure at this point that Terminus has, I mean, who knows how many orders you've run now, like well over 10,000 orders or whatever. So how are you taking that like personal approach that you're talking about, which makes sense on a smaller scale, and then applying it through systems that actually means that these people get some sort of organized follow through? Are you using like a HubSpot as like your core CRM so that it actually is timed out and managed, or is it truly just like salespeople that are obsessed with contacting people every day?
The mixture of both, because the key to it all is when it starts to work for you is the hard part. You know what I mean? Because, okay, now I've got orders to manage, and you get in this cycle of harvesting and seeding, if you want to think of it that way, or planting and harvesting, or whatever you want to call it. I mean, because you spend all this time talking to everybody, then it works, and then the orders come in, and you're managing getting them set up. Then how do I flip that? There's multiple ways to do that. Some people would be like, oh, I have my person who's on the outbound while I have my project managers on the inbound. I mean, this could get very complex. We choose to have multiple account reps, account managers, not sales reps. Account managers is a better way to think of that. And they're able to take a fresh order in and walk it all the way through to the delivery process. But the system is supporting that, and it can get very complex. And that's kind of what my job is I help people outside of Terminus. It's more of a one-on-one thing, because you find out that all these concepts and stuff kind of plug and play in to where that company is at, where their weakness may be. I'm telling you right now, even us, like, we need to be better at it. The weakest we all are at is at customer retainment. There is way more money in customer retainment than there is in finding new stuff. Mm-hmm. But then again, viewing the customer retainment side of it, turning them into referrals, basically advocates, those kinds of things outbound, all that's free, by the way. You know what I mean? That's not in the sense of like ad spend. Where your cost comes into play is in commissions for the rep. And then also, as you're making money, spending more money into systems like HubSpot or something like that to give the reps the support, not only of knowing when to talk to somebody, when they're going back on our website, when they're interested in something over here, there, or the other. When do I talk to them properly again? Is you got to figure that out for your own company. I mean, I can always consult and help people with those things, but you have to look at what's right for us, for our flow. And the truth about it is if for the 101 of this is, I would ask any print shop, after you've made the completed sale, like the sale's done, I mean, completed delivery of the sale, when do you talk to somebody after that again? Not to find out when they'll place another order, but how they enjoyed the last order. And that could be, everybody's got their theory on that, a win. I think there's a first checkup of, hey, did you get your order? I just want to make sure, is it on there like I said it would be? Yes. Thank you. Cool. Thank you so much for ordering with us. Done. When do you hit them back up and say, okay, how do you like said order? You could combine them into the same hit, but the difference about that is two people don't realize is one of the hardest things in marketing is, what reason do I have to talk to this person without annoying them? Because we all get ads all the time that are like, on sale now, this,
right,
on the sale, this, that, and the other. But if you split up the conversation and understand the natural thing for someone to do is open their shirts, they're here on time, I've got them for the reason I need them. Now I need to go focus on the event or the family reunion or something like that. Family reunion is done, say a week later, and you hit them up and be like, how did everybody enjoy those shirts we made? Love them. That makes me feel great. Because as a business owner, like, man, you really were a part of this person's goal and what they're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
And then you let go of that for a moment. And then, like, when is the right time to hit them up? And then you just kind of walk through, not quite a customer journey. It is that, but it's also, how do we want to complement that journey? You know what I mean? So what HubSpot has is techniques. If someone says, yeah, I'll hit you up next year for my next family reunion shirts. Right. Why would you hit them up all throughout every month for the rest of the year in your regular email list if it's just going to possibly be annoying them and leading them away from the intent of what they told you? You could try some other stuff. That's fine. But do you have a system to be able to say, okay, next year they're going to be doing the family reunion next April. By February, I want to touch base with them. So how do you really – so HubSpot has this task list, just like anything. So it's almost like making a decision. Okay, I'm going to hit them up next February and shelf that idea. What's going to happen is a good sales rep is going to come around a full calendar year and hit next February, and he's going to have a lot of work to do because he's going to have all these things. And by the way, something might be like, hey, I'm going on a tour with my band again in a month. Okay, in 2 weeks, I need to hit them up and see how we're doing. How, what do they need a refill for the tour? So the question is, does somebody have a way to checklist and say, how do I communicate with them again? So some of this isn't necessarily automated. Now, you can automate that. You can basically say, on this day, this email is going to go out. HubSpot has a way you can make, like, I can go ahead and enroll them into an email. So too many people open the emails and write a fresh email and go, fresh email, go. But you remember, emails really only need one or two contextual points. Number one, hey, I know you enjoyed the last order. In other words, you did an order with us. That's contextual point number one. You got them on time. I know what time that you got them on time. Number two, that's true. You're a band, so I know it was a concert, right? Can you say that at scale? Anytime I talk to a band, can I talk about their concerts in the email and make a templated thing out there? Because it's kind of like saying automation is for doing at scale what I would do one-on-one if I had the time. And that's a big thing that people don't think about automation. Being like, I really seem to be doing this a lot. So how do I make a templated out version for bands, for churches, for sports team fan wear, whatever it is, breweries. If you go after a lot of breweries, you should have like emails for regular customers that are blank. You can have a general one if you need it. So I'm going to make an email. Okay, so in HubSpot, I make an email, basically a saved template called brewery check-in. This person, I'm going to enroll them in it. And when do you want to send it out? On February 18th. If they contact me before that, it cancels that email. That's really powerful. You know what I mean?
I've seen that too, where it's like you're sending obnoxious emails that aren't pertaining to what they're actually ordering because they just are on a list. So while they're placing an order for 400 units, you're sending them an email, be like, "Well, did you want to get a discount on 25 T's for this price and whatever?" And it's like being able to pull them in and out of those lists is critical.
Yeah, I mean, it could simply be like it's kind of fun because you're making like this choose your own adventure path within HubSpot.
Mm-hmm.
And I can be like, okay, if someone's on my site and I know their email, like a past customer, and they hit next level products with 3 different clicks on their products, or if they hit Gildan, or if they hit, do brands out this way, send them an email being 2 days later saying, want to know how you're doing. We have some awesome stuff going on with Next Level if you want to check out any of that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And we see those emails all the time where you're on a website and it hits you up with something. You just got to find out when's the right time for them to get that email. And what do you want to really say to that person? And nowadays, people aren't too freaked out when they see contextual stuff. If anything, you still get people like, man, I was just thinking about getting some Next Level shirts and you hit me up. So we get that all the time. So they're like, wow, I didn't know, so we don't try to be like, to me, that's sleazy when you act like, too like I read your mind. I'd rather be like, so sometimes just telling the truth in a campaign is the best thing. I noticed that you were looking at Next Level stuff and I'd love to help you find the right thing for you.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? That actually is more genuine to me than saying, did you happen to need Next Level? Be like, you know what I mean? Like that's where it gets kind of like, what's going on here? You know what I mean?
How are you approaching that on the front end of the customer experience? I mean, with huge companies like Rush Order Tees or Custom Ink, obviously, having these massive front ends with very little customer service reps, like you can have a problem and contact them, but for the most part, they expect you to make your purchase without contacting someone. How's your kind of front sales process working? Are you doing an e-commerce plus sales reps, or are you doing almost exclusively sales reps?
E-commerce plus. Our new site literally just launched, so it's in the.
Okay.
This is the first time I've ever said it out loud to the world. It really is. This is today. It is up right now. However, I'm not putting the marketing out there, inviting people in yet because we're doing the going through the bugs kind of phase. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And yeah. So anyway, so when people come in, I think people first of all need to realize that the value is what keeps people around. Just keep that as the rule number one. What value am I giving? And value is not money. It's a sense of like achievement through the path where someone says, that's cool. Yeah, that's value. Just someone say, that's interesting, or that's good. That's still value. It's just what level of value. So example, our new site, someone can look at all the different pictures of all the shirts, blank shirts, and it says upload your artwork, just like stuff we've seen before. It's nothing. Some of it's not even like new concepts. I'm just saying, are you doing the basic 101 would be, can someone experience what will it look like if I get a t-shirt from you the best I can right now? Make a mock-up on your site right now that is number one. Can I make a mock-up and see what my shirts are going to look like? Mm-hmm. What I just said right there is probably the most undervalued thing. People act like I said something boring. All right, but you go to a site that says don't have many pictures of the blank products. I cannot upload my artwork at all. I can't do anything. Mm-hmm. It says if you want Gildan and you want 2 colors on a chart, it's cost this many dollars for 100 of them. Right. Call me if you want to do it. And it's like there's no experience there at all. Like, and there are more screen printers out there with sites like I just described versus the mock-up and experiential stuff.
Yeah.
And just simply that right there will increase your quotes. Okay.
There are
that gets you more.
Huge screen printers. There's screen printers with 14 autos, and they still don't have a front end with what you're talking about, the screen, like the mock-up generators.
Yeah.
It's crazy how big some shops are because they're doing like contract work or whatever, and they just don't even want to deal with some of the more smaller orders, I guess. But It is crazy how many shops I know don't really have much of an e-commerce front end at all.
Yeah, we dabbled in, so a lot of what you're describing too, by the way, yes, are contract, or they might be this other style that is almost like manufacturer style, like where, by the way, this is kind of a funny industry thing. I don't know, and I'm not crapping on any old school dudes at all, but I'm just saying, it used to be back in the day when something seemed a little too big of an order or too hard to, or just simply my shop cannot complete this order. They would throw this, oh, you got to go to somewhere like China to get that made. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like almost like they acted like big orders were like the way a lot of us look at cut and sew orders or something. You know what I mean? Where it's just like, I just can't do that. And you have to, but now, so what happened is for the average smaller shop to have fully automated equipment, you know, wasn't what, I don't remember that growing up. You know, when I was in 2000, 2006, especially the Southeast, like most shops, and I think I heard the other day, I was talking to somebody at the show we went to, something like 90% of shops, if you have to say, I do t-shirts, is like a shirt and sign shop and or just a small like manual with 4 people working together. I mean, to have a crew and 2 autos and all that kind of stuff, you have to be able, you know, you have some volume of some sort. You know what I mean?
Right.
You're in a different way of challenging. Some of these guys get so big though, and get the opportunity, and they in their wheelhouse to where they wanted distribution style orders. Like we tried some of that, and it really wasn't my favorite. You know, we did a lot of orders for Hot Topic, and they'll throw orders at you that are ridiculously big. They're telling you how much you're going to make, which is fair. And actually, if you look at the numbers, I mean, a lot of time it works out fine, you know, depending on what's going on. But these orders, they all need to be stickered, hang tagged, bagged up in master bag cases by so many high. This color tape on the outside. They have like a Bible you got to follow, and you just got to decide: are we that kind of shop? And you know, I had a friend who got it was an apron manufacturer that got a automatic just to do the printing on the aprons, or no, he got embroidery equipment, and he got a $250,000 piece order for Starbucks. Now it wasn't a contract order because they manufactured aprons and then embroidered the Starbucks logo, and they also did some stuff for Cracker Barrel as well. So they would get these big orders, but he couldn't take this mold. He's not putting it out there in the world. Hey, I'll take your 12-piece order. He just doesn't. Yeah. That's not in their wheelhouse.
All of his capacity is probably taken up by the big orders anyway. I mean, if he's just expecting a 250,000 units per quarter, I mean, that production must take forever.
So what happens is, you know, I think it's powerful, first of all, if you know your wheelhouse and be honest and humble about it, you know what I mean? Or better yet, do the best to say, you know, I'm really at least going to aim my marketing to go after and my sales guys to go after what's like our style of order and not get hung up on like, I got to be able to print anything for everybody. You know what I mean? Like there's just a thing about that says a specialist comes in and kind of has a vibe, your brand will start taking a life form that you're kind of known for supplying certain types of businesses with printing. You know what I mean? And that's what makes it kind of fun to do conferences when we're all, you know, by fundamental standards, we're all competitors with each other, but not really. You know what I mean? Because it's, first of all, you're going to attract somebody in California quicker usually than I would. You know what I mean? Just simply because of the distance. And then we might really be gravitating to these marketing companies and brands that are trying to do this thing where you could look at your customer base and say, really, at the end of the day, if I had to generalize it, we kind of like draw these kinds of things. And by the way, I learned that from being in the band as well. Like we were a punk hardcore band, and it's just back then everybody didn't want to say what they were really because it was cheesy. You're like, I don't like labels, you know what I mean? But no, you're a skate punk band. You're a ska band for sure. Yeah. That's what that band is. And it's like you're not gonna pull, you know, this style, you know, maybe the folk kind of band is not gonna go. You have crossover all the time, that's fine. But it's better to sometimes just be like, this is kind of what I am. from a branding standpoint, this is my wheelhouse when it comes to manufacturing. Therefore, it's a lot easier to find those kind of customers, and it's way more authentic to be like, because think about the story you can tell. Like somebody could show you a design they want to get done, and say they're like an extreme, an outdoor sportsy kind of thing. Be like, oh, I do a lot of printing for surf shops. Be like, this reminds me of a logo we did for blank customer a while ago. You remind me a lot of them. Now you sound like you're part of a group. You know what I mean? You understand them a little more. Even if they're like, this is a skateboard company. Well, a skateboard company and a surf shop, kind of thing going on is going to have way more like connecting fibers than if you maybe want to sell to, I don't know, like a landscaper or something like that.
Yeah.
But you can still, it doesn't mean you can't print a landscaper shirt. It doesn't matter. That's fine. Do it if they call. But do you want to put your money and efforts behind like shotgunning it into the wind, saying if your commonality is if you need shirts, I got you. That they can Google that and find a billion other people.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And it's like we are a wonderful printer for say the church scene. So I tell people if they're not labeling their contacts as well, that's another really important thing. Because you want to be like, who am I really selling to? And I don't think you have to label it down to like every little style of company. I think you have to look at the intent of the order, not the style of company necessarily. You can do style, but like we have a default thing that says brands. We looked at the end of the day, if someone's really focusing on making an experiential place, a good example is I've seen, at least around Georgia, a lot of the axe throwing kind of companies. They have a bar there, but you can go throw some axes. To me, think about that's a pool hall. At the end of the day, that's what pool halls used to be, or just a typical bar. Like I'm going to go shoot some pool, throw some darts. It's all the same. It's just a newer twist on a community style. Entertain myself, listen to some jukebox music. Yeah, I can have the same conversation with every single one of those styles of kind of places. So I don't have to say, so think of the intent. Hey, when your customers come and enjoy themselves with the community within your shop, and blah, 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 and you're focusing on what does it feel like to be at one of those kind of places, I'm using certain language in that message, that post, that email that would not make sense if I was talking about fan wear for sports school stuff. You know what I mean? Yeah, there's like, imagine people dancing, having a good time wearing your logo while they're at your place enjoying some drinks.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like that doesn't make sense, but it does make sense at these other kind of places.
Yeah, I mean, we just did a job for St. Patrick's Day that it was like 250 hats because nobody was too confident in how quickly they would sell. And we ended up finding out that from whatever the St. Patrick's Day was, like a Saturday, I think, or a Sunday. And from Thursday to like Friday night, all 250 were sold out purely because it was like a local thing. And people wanted to be like, this is like supporting local and representing local. And like the product felt like it was like an experience. So it wasn't so much like anyone needed a hat, but it was because like it was like this memento and like takeaway from their wild night out on the weekend.
Right.
So like you can totally kind of have crappy bar merch that's just ugly and sitting and never sold, or you can have like the community lifestyle like thing so that if you're walking around wearing it in the future, people are like, oh yeah, I went there like 2 months ago, best night ever. And it's a different attitude about making the merch instead of just like cheap black t-shirt with a logo that they made 20 years ago.
Right. I had a bar in Atlanta once when the first time I kind of like got someone to really bite on this idea. I said, they were like, hey, we need to get some shirts for the bartenders to wear. Mm-hmm. And, if we have a couple extra, we'll put it up on the wall for $20 for the shirt or something like that.
Yeah.
I said, I would actually do that, but only one of them are up on the wall for $20. Why? Because that puts a value. This normally costs $20, right? But what if you got 100 T-shirts instead of 25 or whatever you're thinking about getting? Mm-hmm. What if you got 200 shirts? And once you start seeing someone come to your bar over and over again like a local. Or if somebody spends so much, you don't have to have a rule around it at all other than connection. And then, hey, man, what size shirt do you wear? A large. Boom. Thanks for coming. Bring more of your friends. You see what I'm saying? Now I'm telling the customer, use this merchandise not to identify your bartenders, but to identify fans of your bar, of your church, of your sports league. You see what I'm saying? Sell them to have value. Sell them most of the time, but don't end the time period or event. Don't end St. Patty's Day 2024 with any leftover. That's my goal.
Yeah.
Like, give them all away at the end of the night.
Yeah.
Don't spend money on ads trying to find new people. Take this merchandise and enrich the people who are already there and having a good time so they come back and feel a part of this place. Like, we all watch the TV show Cheers or know what it is, where everybody knows your name. And it's like, why aren't people trying to be the Cheers of their small town? That means what I learned at Pepsi was we would go to a Walmart with all these hundreds of T-shirts, and you find out half the town even works at this Walmart. You know what I mean? That's just what it is. It's such a small town in West Virginia, let's say. But at the end of that week, at least a third of that town is walking around wearing Pepsi logos or Mountain Dew tribal Vin Diesel artwork. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's creating community around a brand. So not only at Terminus do we feel like, or with what I enjoy, really, even outside, what I enjoy the most is see people understand these concepts for themselves. And then we, as promotional items providers, have the opportunity to then teach that forward and help people enrich their stuff outside of their original intent. It's okay for someone to come and say, hey, my band's coming to go on tour and I need 100 shirts with this design on it. And I'm like, cool, we can do that. If that's where we stop this conversation, you're going to get that. I got you, man. It's going to be great. But what happens what if you got another shirt as well, that if they downloaded your new album right then and there and showed you the receipt, you gave them the free shirt? You know what I mean? And it might or might not make sense for some people. I'm just saying, if they don't think outside the box and being like, what do help people know how to grow their company? That's what I do. That's my background, is like coming up with experiential but achievable ideas and providing the materials of that. I've had people I've told that to, and they didn't even do the t-shirt order. They just started offering, if they bought this beer, they got a free shot of something else.
Yeah, right.
Even that, just like, it helps people these conversations help people jog their ideas, and what it bleeds out of just getting t-shirts. So there's this level where, going back to the belief system, I have to believe by helping people further their business, that's a value point that's going to stick in their brain. And then even some time from now, when they're ready to get t-shirts made, or if their friend needs t-shirts or something like that, I'm going to be the first person they think of, by far. So that's why I enjoy, and it scratches my itch of being able to do the marketing stuff for lots of companies. And because it's hard working for a really big corporate company when there's all the red tape and you work there for years and years and years, and then your marketing ideas turn into analytics versus executional creative ideas. You know what I mean? And you're like, man, it's hard for me to feel like I'm making a difference. But when I'm doing what me and you were talking about and helping people, I feel like, even if it's another screen printer, I'll never make $1 off of them ever. It's helping me sharpen my ideas and stuff like that. And it's helping me make things, a better place, you know what I mean, for everybody. So that's the only thing I can think of why, a lot of people say, why would you go to screen printing conferences and talk to other screen printers about bettering their business? And I'm just like, because I just believe in the grand scheme of things, it shines light to where people look at us as like, hey, these guys are doing something different. These guys are at least thinking of a different way about printing, than most people do,
Yeah, I mean, for me, I never think about my own business as much as when somebody makes me do a talk, because I'm like, well, here's this topic that I'm saying I'm going to give you insight into. And then you're like, well, how am I using it? How do I think I want to use it in a year? Like, there is a lot of it that just makes you kind of be introspective when you're like pushed to explain yourself to people.
Well, also you have to think too. It's like when you do work out your way of doing things, whoever you are, any company works out their ways. When somebody asks you questions, I'm framing it in this idea of like example. A lot of people are thinking, what the heck is this HubSpot thing, or what is Printavo, or what is any of this stuff you're talking about? But once you're in it, like if I'm having a meeting with, some different people, sales manager, production manager, and my digital's operation, we're all meeting, and I say, we're going to do a t-shirt campaign giveaway. I got an idea like this. They're all reading in context. They're already thinking, what will it look like when the information hits my board in HubSpot? You know what I mean? Like, I don't have to have the deeper conversations of like the talking about the mechanical cogs that have to spin, because everything we talk about is like, how will that it's like kind of saying, if you're like, hey, we need to sell a t-shirt, and if all the things you're selling, a new brand of t-shirt, all the things you're selling live on the website, I almost don't have to talk about wouldn't it be cool if we had a website anymore, right? It exists. So when people ask me, some stuff, it's like, how do I explain that when it's just like in the path of what we do? You know what I mean? Like, I cannot do that without it hitting HubSpot. I cannot make a video web content without understanding exactly like we already know that how it's going to end up, like when we're going to put it out on Instagram or something like that. Maybe not when, but I'm just saying, like, it's edited, it's ready to go. A lot of people don't even know, like, how do I start to make a video? And that's okay. That's where I come in, and I'm like, okay, well, we had to go through the what do I do phases, but then like any good tool that makes sense for a company, once you turn that on, it's not, you no longer have to talk about what ifs. You know what I mean? It gives you, like me and you were doing the podcast right now. You bought the microphone, you bought the headset, and we said, hey, why don't we do the podcast? Cool. What day? We didn't have to then, get it through our head what to do. So I guess my point, to make it very simple, is start. Everybody needs to start the thing. Just do it. Do it terribly. It doesn't matter. Like, people are so forgiving when it comes to actually most content like that.
Yeah.
Way more forgiving than a band is than a band gets for their music. Because if you think about it, you spend a year writing the music, record the music, gonna market it right. Hey, everybody, here's my album. And if you put out an album that people are like, not my favorite one you put out, you lose fans instantly. But we could put out a podcast that doesn't get as many views as the last one, and people are pretty forgiving. We do a lot of skit videos, and it's like everybody's kind of like looking at each video as like, I love that one, or that one's cute but maybe didn't make me laugh. But no one's like, you did not make a video that I completely enjoy, so I hate you now. You know what I mean? But people do that about music, man. It's crazy to watch people like turn on their favorite bands and stuff,
Yeah.
So
I think that's a great piece of advice. Yeah, I mean, everyone needs to just get started with whatever their next step is. And I want to thank you so much for being on, because I feel like you and me could talk about this forever. So we're definitely going to have to have you back on in like a month or so.
Yeah, then that's
we'll
more
dive
digestible.
in deeper.
Dude, I love doing these kind of things. I love talking to people. And if anybody wants to talk to me about that, you can hit me at John Terminus Tees, find me on social, whatever, you know how to find people. But just be the one to act first. That's totally fine. Just send me a message just saying, whoever's listening to this right now, just say, hey, I got an idea. And I'll bounce ideas all day long. You know what I mean? I love talking about this stuff. And it sharpens the edge of the abilities that people just take the time to do. So I think if anybody could have a takeaway from this whole thing, would be whatever you've been thinking about, just do it and keep moving forward. Just try it out. Don't start from day one spending $40,000 in Facebook ads. You know what I mean? But and by the way, that's something else that I want to add to this. I want to be very clear. You can do that, but you have to build that. Think about this. You have to build the base first of these are my kind of people. Why? Because I want to be able to give that information to Facebook, because Facebook has a lookalike audience, right? And when I mean Facebook, I mean like the meta business thing. Here's a lookalike audience of all my customers that ordered within the last year. That's if you just want to go with that, that's fine. Find me more people like this. And they're looking at something like 216 different data points of similarities to find customers that are like those customers. So how would I know that information? Meaning I would be spending lots of money to just figure out, like, does anybody want shirts versus these kind of people would actually respond to my message from a probability standpoint. It's mathematics. So there's where your ROI will come into play. You know what I mean? As be like, okay, cool. Now that I've done business, I've got these for sure buyers of my business. Facebook, find me more. Here's $1,000, and you're like, cool. I did $28,000 in sales off of this $1,000, and those are real numbers. You can do that.
That's awesome.
If it's all formulated like that, and that's we can go in a deeper dive level about that kind of stuff if you want to later. But that's the kind of stuff that's really important. Is it starts with this fundamental foundational thing of just getting it started and start asking customers how did they enjoy their last order. Just start there. That's all you got to do. And then then build layers.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, let's just do it in a month. And I'm sorry we just don't have more time right now. But yeah, let's like do it again in a month and we can go deeper and deeper. I mean, we could do a whole episode on nothing but advertising spend.
Sure. Yeah. Yes, let's do whatever. I love talking about this stuff, and I'm totally happy. And I thank you for letting me be on with you guys. And we got to make Gavin show up.
Yeah, I know. AWS wrecked his whole world today.
And I understand we use AWS too. So,
yeah.
Yes. Thanks, man.
Yep. Thanks, John. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. Like, subscribe, and tell your mom about us. All right. Bye.